Hello and welcome to Horror Boys. It's a podcast on the internet. I'm Austin, joined as always by
Chris, OG.
Chris 2, Hyper Chris.
I don't know what that was. But this isn't just any old podcast on the internet. This is a horror movie review podcast specifically. So we're going to review a horror movie. That's what we do. We're currently in the Scream franchise. We've covered Scream 1. We've covered Scream 2. So now it's time for...
Scream 4.
Well, actually, I was going to say Scary Movie. But no, we are going to be talking about Scream 3 this week. So yeah. Let's jump right into that before the movie info I like to give you nowadays, this movie is directed by Wes Craven. Woo! Yay!
Whoa.
It's Wes. I mean, I could list off his accolades every week, but also he's Wes Craven. If you don't know his name, you're probably not listening to our podcast. And then we're gonna skip over the writer real quick. I'm gonna get over two other people real quick, just because. The writer part of this, there's a whole back information I have to add with it. So we'll jump to our director of photography. Director of photography even is Peter Deming. He is returning from the last movie and the last 7 days of the first movie he's filming. And we also have Marco Beltrami returning as our composer, who has been composer for all three movies so far. And now it's time to talk about the writer. We start with, the person's name. I hope I pronounced this right because it's spelled kind of weird. I think it's Aaron. I think it's just Aaron, but it's spelled kind of special. Aaron Kruger is their name, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And this is where I normally bring up some of the other things they've done, which this man has such a weird, eclectic, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Filmography. That was the word I was thinking of, but could not remember, and I could only remember discography, and I was like, he's not a musician. This isn't relevant. But yeah, he did the script for Ring and Ring 2. Then he later went on to do the Transformers 2 through 5, I think, or 4. 2 through 4, I don't remember. It's Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, on Dark Side of the Moon, and then Age of Extinction. So, the best Transformers movies. And then even more recently, the man's still getting crazy big work. Dumbo, which once again, I don't care about it, but it is a huge movie that Disney trusted this man to write. And also, most recently, Top Gun Maverick. So that's a thing.
Yeah,
I've heard great things about it. I don't care at all to ever watch it. But this is not our Top Gun Maverick podcast, because that will never exist.
You never know.
I'll go out on a limb and say that we're never going to do a podcast, a Top Gun Maverick podcast. Hypothetically, could we do a movie podcast where we did an episode of Top Gun Maverick? Maybe. But a Top Gun Maverick podcast that's all focused on Top Gun Maverick? I don't think it's going to happen. I'll go out on a limb and say that...
We'll see.
Okay, so Chris 2 is launching that, but no one else will be involved. But yeah, now we gotta get to the crazy... Because before that, that's okay, cool, it's just a new writer. It's not Kevin Williamson, okay. But there's a lot of extra details about him as well in, the process of getting him. And so first off, even though they're not credited on IMDb, but... in the documentary, Wes Craven gives him a lot of credit for helping write it. Her name is Leetta Leetta, and she has a last name, and I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm just gonna move on. She has a last name, and it's there. I'm sure if you look up Scream 3 Leetta, you can find it. It's Calogridis. Maybe. But yeah, so yeah, she's also helped write it. But then there's the backstory for why Kevin Williamson wasn't here. So apparently it's mostly, it seems like the big thing is just timing. Like he was too busy working on Dawson's Creek at the time. But then Bob Weinstein stepped in to make the decision to go without Kevin Williamson and not wait a little bit. And
Bad decision.
yeah, Kevin had wrote a treatment with. This is a fun little fun fact about the initial script idea was that Stu was going to be returning, which extra cool about it is well, I mean, I guess cool for him and not great for the company is Matthew Lillard was still paid for Scream 3 because even though they ended up not using the script that he was in at all. So he was still paid for being in this movie, so good for Matthew Lillard. But yeah, that's the backstory of like it was a big like, and then also like there's other parts we'll bring up here that like to kind of play a little devil's advocate for Aaron's possibly, you know, you could definitely argue subpar work in this movie is that he basically was hired 6 weeks before they were planning on filming, because that's when they decided, okay, cool, we have to get someone else because, you know, it's not working out with Kevin Williamson right now, he can't make it. So they got, this guy had like 6 weeks to write a script, and like they were redoing everything like days of, like, I want to give the man credit. I mean, obviously,
I was reading that.
Obviously, he has a successful career. Like, I mean, I know these movies that I like love, but he obviously can write movies that people think are good enough because, you know, Disney is giving him money. Like, so like I want to like not completely crap on Aaron, and I might do a little bit of crapping on Aaron because I do think his script has some holes for sure that we will get to when we start talking about the movie itself. But I do want to let the world know that it's not fully his fault. Like a lot of the bad decisions you'll see throughout most movies, it's a very good chance it's honestly the producer's fault. It's probably, for this movie, it's Bob Weinstein's fault. For a lot of movies, it's a lot of times the producers who come down and say, no, you have to make this decision right now and do it right now. So, I want to play, you know, I support the writers, you know, they're doing, he did his best he could in 6 weeks. But yeah. So we're going to open the movie with Cotton Weary, who is still played by Liev Schreiber, who is on his way home from his job as a trashy TV host on his TV show 100% Cotton, which is a great pun name. I really respect it. And it does feel like the perfect career trajectory for Cotton Weary. He, you know, Mr. I Need to Be Famous from the last movie is now doing like a Jerry Springer-esque talk show. Like, that feels completely on brand for his character.
Yeah.
Oh, also, real quick, maybe partially, I guess it kind of makes sense here, is like, another person that was also involved in the writing room for this that will never personally take credit because it's not who he is Wes Craven also helped, like, a lot, which, fair. But, like, just want to bring that up before we moved on, is Wes Craven also, like, specifically one thing that Aaron mentioned on the documentary was that, like, Wes would step in and be like, hey, this thing doesn't really feel like what that character would do from the movies we've already done. And so he'd help him, like, refocus it closer to what they were, more in line with who the characters were before. So, yeah. Yeah, he's on his way home, and while he's on the phone with his agent, when he gets a call from a mystery female. Ooh. Oh. And they're a fan of his talk show. Ooh. But then the fan asks what his girlfriend would think of, you know, him kind of flirting with her on this conversation, before revealing that he, you know, the classic Ghostface voice, still voiced by Roger Jackson. And then Ghostface also asks him where Sydney is, and he's, you know, doesn't have an answer to that, and that's not the right answer for Ghostface. You need to tell Ghostface where Sydney is, because if not, he's going to, you know, kill your girlfriend because he's watching her. So now Khan has to race his way home, and I'm not gonna like talk about it every time they cut back to it in the actual movie, but I will say there is a really cool like kind of cut back and forth between like some really cool like stunt driving of Cotton trying to get back home. Like he's driving home in like LA streets, and like it looks really cool. Like it's a cool little action sequence. Like there's nothing else to say about it other than it's a cool little action sequence of him trying to race his way home recklessly driving. Lost my place. Here we are. But yeah, so Ghostface is currently watching Christine, who is played by Kelly Rutherford. And she's taking a shower. So that's, a thing. Second movie in a row to start with a shower scene, but it's also that classic Scream style shower scene where they respect the actresses enough to not make them be naked, so it's just completely pointless. I mean, just like, alright, cool, so they're showering. Alright. I guess maybe some, really, young kid, not yet, that sounds weird when you say it like that, but like some, 12-year-old kids might get like really excited they even got to see her feet or something. I don't know.
Or people who like feet.
Also that, well. I chose feet, but I wanted to go with like maybe her ankles, or because you see her shoulder a little bit. Ooh, that's almost nudity. Oh, that's crazy.
She also like doesn't dry herself off at all, which bothered me. My wife does the same thing, so I was like, dude, just dry your shoulders off. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I don't know. Like a killer.
And then she puts clothes on. That was.
She's gonna die.
Huh? Oh,
sorry, spoilers. But also not, because it's a Scream movie, and it's the third one. So the second we open with these characters, it's not going to end well for them, because that's how Scream opens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wrote here, very similar to what, our Chris 2 brought up here, is that, after she kind of dries off, because she's really not. Like, she uses a towel, but she's not dry. Her feet are
She
dripping.
puts the towel on her.
Yeah.
And that's as far as she goes.
But she hears Cotton's voice before. She's like, oh, Cotton's calling for her. He's home. But before...
Or is it?
Oh, I know. But yeah, she's attacked by Ghostface. She then slips on her wet floor, trying to get away from him, but is able to get away and lock herself in the office. But then, right on the other side of the door, Ghostface tells her in Cotton's voice he's just playing a game before trying to stab his way through the door. So yeah, this is where we'll address it, because it comes up, and it could come up a lot of other points, but I'll try not to just harp on this one thing, because honestly, as much as I did dislike it, I don't think it's something bad enough that like took me out of the movie or anything. But this
magically acquired a voice
yeah, this new
for
magic voice
in
box, yeah, like this. As you can see here with Cotton, and spoiler for other characters too, this voice changer can have every person's voice you could ever imagine, just ready to go in it. And also, like, fine, maybe that could work on, like, a phone. But this is on the other side of a door, right next to her.
A recorder is not going to project in the same way a human voice is going to.
No.
Yeah.
And then there's the fact, like, let's even... Forgetting, like, the logistical of, like, in individual scenes, then there's the other part that I'm more willing to suspend my disbelief on, is just the unrealistic nature of it. We're just now in 2022 kind of getting to the point where we can deepfake voices kind of like this with really famous people where there's hundreds of hours of them talking. And this is in 2000.
I couldn't see it working with Cotton.
Sure.
He has his talk show, so he's on there a lot.
Maybe Gail, she may have done enough interviews because of her book. Maybe, sure.
But also, this is 2000.
Then there's that, yeah. But that one part of it is, yes, a complete, like, logical leap you have to make to do it. But I'm willing to do that one. It's the, like, in the individual scenes where it's like, he's on the other side of the wall. Like, we saw in Scream 1, they showed us when, like, Matthew Lillard used it as a stew. Like, when you're right next to him, you can hear both voices. She should be able to hear both voices. But she does not. And no characters will. And I will try not to harp on it too much throughout. I don't remember what I wrote in my notes. I might have, like, 1 second jabs when I re-bring it up. I might. I'll try to keep them on the low. We addressed it. It's a flaw. But I don't want to harp on it. So we will move on now that we've harped on it. But yeah, so he tries to stab through the door, but does not get through the door before we see actual Cotton show up at his house, which also I want to bring up real quick. His house is just beautiful. I mean, it's just a really nice house. Like, this was not in my notes, but just, this house is gorgeous. It's like this giant mansion. Like, it's too big.
I mean, he is a talk show host for a trashy TV show.
That's true.
So, makes sense.
I mean, it kind of does. He probably could have this level of house, especially with, like, he's a guy who's on this, like, whose whole dream was just be famous. He's probably not spending his money well as well. So, like, he's going... I could see him getting this house, but it's a really nice house.
It was a little weird that he drove a Suburban, though. I don't really know why he drove a Suburban.
It's fair.
I guess this was 2000, though, so...
Yeah. But yeah, so Cotton shows up and he runs inside the house and he makes his way to the office where now golf club armed, not like she doesn't have a golf club for an arm, she's armed with a golf club. Christine doesn't trust him as he tries to, you know, like tell her like, hey, what's going on? I heard Ghostface, like, and she's like, oh yeah, because, you know, she heard his voice tell her that, you know, it was him. So in the world where that voice box exists, this is a fair reaction.
I don't think this is a particularly well written movie, but I really like the way this scene is written.
It's fair.
The way it's all set up. I like this scene a lot.
It's a good scene. It's like this movie, it's the third worst opening scene we've seen so far, but yeah, it's still not terrible.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, so he tries to, like, they end up circling around, and then he sees Ghostface coming from behind her, and he tries to, like, reach out and, like, tell her, but she hits him with the golf club, knocking him down, and Ghostface stabs Christine in the back, and it kills her. She's dead. Then Khan's able to get up, though, and he starts fighting back for a little bit. He gets his arm cut, before eventually he ends up dropping a bookshelf on Ghostface. But it doesn't really end up mattering because Ghostface is like able to almost immediately hit him with enough force to make, you know, 6'3" Liev Schreiber like do a full like jump over a desk. But all right, I'm fine. It's fine. It's the magical Ghostface strength of he can take out literally anyone, but also can be taken out by literally anyone.
Yeah. You give him a good smack, he'll fall.
Oh, are you 120-pound, maybe, you know, Courtney Cox? You can take him out. Are you 250 Liev Schreiber? You're gonna probably fall and die. But you know, it is what it is. That's honestly all of the movies. Like it's not even actually a flaw with this one. That's just technically a flaw with Ghostface in general. Because, you know, they don't want the important characters to die. But so yeah, he knocks him down, then Ghostface stabs him in the chest and pulls out his magic voice changer, and in Cotton's voice tells him he should have told him where Sydney is before bringing down the knife again into a title card. It's a cool transition. Like, it's like him slashing the screen, and then it turns into the top of the 3. Like, I respect it. I like a good title card. This is a decent one. It was a decent transition into title card. Respect where it is deserved, and it's the title card.
The title card. And the intro scene.
Yeah. We then head to the secluded mountains where Sydney, who is still played by Neve Campbell, she lives in a super secure house with her dog, Cherokee.
What are you talking about? Sydney?
I
only know Laura.
Oh, that's true. She does go by Laura here because she wants to keep some protection for herself. Laura from Monterey. I'm not sure if that means Sydney lives in Monterey actually at this point, or if that's also just a complete lie. I don't know. That's fine. I don't need to know. But we don't know where Sydney currently is, and it's never told to us.
Nope.
So, you know,
this place looks nice, though.
It is a really nice house. I don't know where she got the money for this.
Very secluded, and also known as
they probably bought the story rights from her for them to be able to tell her story with the movies.
Maybe, I don't know, because I feel like it was just goes back to, you know, Gail Weathers just wrote the book, and like they bought it from her. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
but they also, you have to buy those film rights.
That's true. They do
and they use her actual name. If they didn't use her actual name.
Yeah, that's fair.
But they use her actual name, so I think they had to pay her in some kind of way.
That must be how. Honestly, I didn't even in the movie at all think about how she got this house. It was now in this conversation where my brain even for a second went, "But wait a second." And I'm going to address the other elephant in the room that some people could, try to blame the, Aaron for, because he's the new change and this is the lesser of the movie. So you want to blame. Most people probably want to try to blame him for every flaw, and I get it. Is that the reason Sydney, spoiler, is relegated for the first 2/3 of this movie to practically nothing? It's kind of Neve Campbell's fault. She was just too busy. She was super busy. She had only 20 days to do any filming because she also had her TV show Party of Five, and she was also doing a different comedy. I don't remember what the name of the comedy was. Some other comedy at the same time, and she literally had 20 days. So they had to just kind of keep her out of a lot of the movie, which that sucks if you're a big Sydney fan, which is fair because she's one of the best characters. I get it, but it's not really anyone theirs fault. They kind of had to if they wanted to have her at all. And we see the backlash when you announce a Scream movie without Neve Campbell. So
I think they do a good enough job justifying her not being there.
Yeah, no,
it didn't bother me the amount she was in the movie.
I only brought it up because I saw it as a big complaint. It's one of those things where I want to try to be the voice of the everyman. I'll bring up complaints that even I don't fully agree with. I'm fine with it. Spoiler, they focus on, Dewey and Gale, who I love both their characters, so I was fine with it. So it's for me, it's fine. Yeah. But if you were coming for Sydney, there's not a lot of Sydney in the first over half of the movie, so it's fair. But yeah. She's working as a crisis counselor under her pseudonym Laura, and then we head away from them. We head to Gale Weathers, who is still played... Well, actually, no, not still played by. For the first time in the franchise history, played by Courtney Cox Arquette. Woo! Yeah, they got married in between the last movie and this movie. So she is now Courtney Cox Arquette. And she is giving a speech to some journalism college students about being cutthroat and do what you gotta do.
Speaking of cut, this haircut is awful.
It's so
She's
terrible.
got just a terrible haircut.
I honestly didn't pay attention to her haircut.
It's pretty terrible.
It's bad.
The little.
It looks like she cut her own hair and did a really bad job.
But if she cut her own hair when she was in second grade.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if any of us have good enough hair that we can bash this woman's hair that much. The first one was fine.
Look at these flowing locks, Austin. Are you kidding?
And that's why I was fine with you saying it looked like she cut her own hair. But when you threw in the cut her own hair in second grade, I thought you took it too far. I don't know. Let me post the picture of her in this movie. I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to just pay attention to the rest of the notes. Her hair doesn't matter. It really doesn't, guys. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, but it doesn't actually matter to the story at all. She has hair. It's apparently not as good as the previous movies.
Yeah.
She is asked to, after her little speech, she's asked to meet with Detective Mark Kincaid, who is played by Patrick Dempsey of Grey's Anatomy, or more importantly, the Aaron Kruger written Transformers: Dark of the Moon. That is obviously what most people would know Patrick Dempsey from, the other Aaron Kruger movie he's been in.
Well, not yet.
Well, he will be in. If they're listening to this, he's been in it. So that's
unless you're listening in the past.
Yeah.
In which case, he hasn't been in it yet.
In which case, impressive. And also, congratulations.
Yeah, how did you pull it off? Do that? But yeah, no, I mean, he's definitely probably most known for being in Grey's Anatomy, but I don't care at all about Grey's Anatomy. Never seen an episode, never will. So, I've also never seen Transformers: Dark Side of the Moon, but I just thought it was funny that he was in another Aaron Kruger movie. But yeah, And he's here to ask her about some evidence from the murders. It's a picture Gail is able to ID as Maureen Prescott, Sydney's mother. That's the one time I'll do it. I'm not doing it as a bit throughout every time she comes up, because she comes up too much. This story is almost all about Maureen Prescott, that character you've heard of like once and has not really
never actually been in the movie.
Yeah. No, this movie is all about her. But
some would say to a fault.
To a little bit for sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely a little bit. Well, they couldn't get Sydney in the movie, so they had to get her mom's corpse as the reasoning for things. Then we cut to Sydney, who is freaking out at the news because she, finds out about another killing happened to, Cotton, and she, rightfully so, goes, crap, this probably means they're coming for me, because this poor girl can't have any safety in her life. Everything has to just go wrong at all times. Because, her gosh darn mother ruined her life, apparently, as we'll find out.
Thanks, Maureen Prescott.
Thanks, Maureen.
Such a loose-moraled woman.
Yeah. I'm not going to double down on that joke, because I feel like this franchise kind of already is a little too loose moral woman shaming for my taste, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
We'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, we'll move on to cutting to the Stab 3 set. Woo!
Woo, Stab 3.
Where a studio executive, played by famous exploitation horror producer Roger Corman, is talking about how, horror movies are bad and we can't do them right now because, all these killings, and how everyone's trying to blame movies for killings, which is already funny and meta because they got Roger Corman to do it, and he's this king of producing crappy schlock bloody movies for the sake of bloody, that's his thing. And I'm not knocking it, good for him, cool, I like those kind of movies, but it's funny because of that. But then it's this weird double level of meta where now I have to, for the first of 2 times during this podcast, bring up some really dark stuff that doesn't directly have to do with the movie, but also very much has to do with the movie. And that's this one is the reason why some of these lines are very extra meta at the time, especially as this movie went into production 2 months after the tragedies that happened at Columbine High School. And so they were the first major horror slasher to do anything after that. So they knew there was going to be a lot of backlash on them, no matter what they did, really. And that's honestly one complaint I've seen throughout my looking around on the internet, is that people complain that this movie has less gore. And that's why. They kind of pivoted to telling a little bit more of a comedy over the outright horror part of it, because they were kind of had to. Once again, it doesn't make the movie, doesn't automatically make any flaw. If you didn't like the fact that this movie was more comedic, that doesn't make it more of a horror movie for you. You can still dislike this movie, but it does explain why it had to happen. There was a horrible tragedy, and whenever those horrible tragedies happen, rather than pointing to the actual problems that caused those tragedies, we try to use entertainment as scapegoats. So they had to, they kind of addressed it meta here, but then they also had to just tone down stuff, So yeah, there was the first of 2 times where I'm gonna have to get deep. Austin's gonna have to come out and talk about some stuff that doesn't typically fit this podcast, but I can't not address it because it very much does have to do with this movie. But yeah, if either of you have anything you want to say before I move on, I'll open the floor to you. All right, just want to make sure I didn't want to be the only one talking there. If you guys had something, I'm fine being the only one talking, but only
a little bit hard to follow up after talking about the Columbine.
Fair enough. Well, let's move on to more people in the scene, because there's also more people. And that's that we meet the first time the director of the movie, Roman Bridger, who is played by Scott Foley. And he thinks that they're all just overreacting. Then the producer, John Milton, who is played by Lance Hendrickson of Aliens, I feel like is his biggest role, especially in horror, to bring up here. I'm sure, here's the thing, he may as well, I think, was in like 260 movies. You probably know him from something else as well, but for the sake of not listing off his IMDb resume, he was in Aliens, and that's cool. But yeah, so he's here, and he asks Detective Kincaid and his partner, who we're meeting for the first time in this scene, Wallace, who is played by Josh Pace, who voiced Raphael in the live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Woo!
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, so he's here, and he Milton asks them if Cotton's murder was thought to be, connected to this movie, which Wallace responds by saying he was making Stab 3 and got stabbed. Which, you know what? Fair.
The delivery on that is so perfect.
Yeah.
He just says it so, like, it's just so obvious. Like,
Yeah.
he was making a movie called Stab.
Yeah.
He got stabbed. Like, just.
Yeah. No, it's.
I love that line.
There is as much as I wish, Kevin Williamson was still here for this movie. Like, there is still some good dialogue throughout. Like, I want to make sure it's known that it's not. There are some moments like that. That was really good. I really liked that one. There's a couple other times I think I bring up. Hopefully I do. There's also like one. There's
a few things in this movie that I really liked. For the most part, I think it's kind of but there's some. I'm going to try my best to not tell the audience what I think until the end. Probably won't, but I'll try. We then get a scene with the Stab 3 cast discussing what's going on. Honestly, it's kind of just them. I didn't write down really anything any of them say in this scene because it really doesn't matter. But I will, because this is the first time we're seeing all of them, list off their character names and what they've been in. Woo! We have Tyson, who is playing the not new Randy, Ricky, in Stabbed 3. Tyson Fox, he is played by Dean Richmond of Hatchet. For our Horror Bois fans, he was in Hatchet. He was friend Marcus.
He sure was.
Yeah.
I remember him.
We then have Sarah Candy in Stab 3 Darling, played by Jenny, longtime anti-vax trash McCarthy. Woo! Yeah, she probably also did other stuff, but I don't care because she doesn't. I'm not going to platform her at all. Not that it matters. Not that our podcast is like. Guess what? She still has lots of work, but screw her.
Garbage lady.
Yeah. We then have Tom, new Dewey Prince. He replaced David Schwimmer. Played by Matt Kieslar, who I don't have any information on what he did. Sorry. And we have Angelina New Sydney Tyler, played by Emily Mortimer, who voices Holly Shiftwell in Cars 2. Woo! Holly Shiftwell, Cars 2, the best cars.
She was in 30 Rock too.
I mean, sure.
She was good in 30 Rock.
Here's the thing. I have whipped past a lot of other things. Like, oh, she was in that. Good for her. But then I was like, Holly Shiftwell in Cars 2? I'm bringing that up.
Cars 2, the best Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be clear, that's not an opinion I actually hold.
To be fair, it's not an opinion I hold, but I also am a Cars 2 apologist. I don't think it's nearly as bad as some people like to say it is.
That's absurd. It is absolutely as bad as some people say
it's really not. It's a completely fine, passable kids movie, and there are some really boring, crappy Pixar movies that no one likes to bring up. And we're not going to get into this, though, because this is not the Pixar podcast. We don't have that podcast yet. We will be launching that after the Top Gun Maverick podcast. But yeah, so she plays Holly Shiftwell in the greatest movie of all time, Cars 2. Then Gail Weathers shows up and runs into Stabs Gail, Jenny Jolie, played by Parker Posey, who I also didn't really recognize any of the stuff she did, but I want to just say right here, I really like Parker Posey in this movie. I think she did a really good job. I think Jennifer is like definitely my favorite of the new characters we meet in this movie. That's just, I mean, some people might not agree with that, that's fine. I really liked her dynamic that she ends up having with Gail and Dewey. I think it's really fun. I think it's one of the like bright points in a movie that isn't perfect.
Yeah.
So I really like her.
Yeah, I think her stuff is good.
I think she has a lot of really funny scenes. Yeah, and she's here, and also I guess I'll mention it here. I didn't mention him in the script, in my script, until much later because that was the first time he had dialogue. But in the background of this shot, you also see her security guard, Steve Stone or Scott Stone.
I
think it's Steve Stone.
I think you mean Patrick Warburton.
I list the character name first and then say the actor's name.
Also known as Crunk from Emperor's New... I almost said Crunk's New Groove.
From the greatest movie of all time after Cars 2, Kronk's New Groove. Right. Yes.
Kronk's New Groove. Right. You understand.
But yeah, he is... He does... I should have probably waited to bring it up into the scene where he actually gets to do anything. He is literally in the background of this shot, but he's here, so I'll mention him. He's here.
And you guys will recognize him by his voice.
Yeah, it's Patrick Warburton. If you even if you don't know who Patrick Warburton is, you know who Patrick Warburton is. He's... Yeah,
he's such a distinctive voice.
Yeah,
is that Joe from Family Guy?
Probably. Sadly, I feel like that is the thing that he's most known for, because sadly that show is way too popular for its quality. But this is also not a Family Guy podcast.
Are you sure?
I'm not doing a Family Guy podcast. I'll come out on firm ground and say I will never do a Family Guy podcast.
And, I can respect you for that.
Thank you. But yeah, and then also in this scene we also find out that Jennifer has had some help with her character because she's been filled in by the technical advisor Dewey, who is played by my world champ David Arquette. But yeah, also he got to marry Courtney Cox, but he doesn't get a new name, so it's not special in between movies for him. He just has a wife now. Good for him. Well, had a wife now, then it's complicated. I don't get it. They're not married anymore, which does make it a little less fun to talk about their relationship in the movies. But the perfect love story of them meeting on screen doesn't hold up when they aren't married anymore. But whatever. But yeah, he's here. Once again, this is one of those scenes where there's a lot of decent little back and forth, but once again, I didn't write down all of it because it's a lot of nothing as well though in this scene.
It's kind of a lot of this movie, honestly.
That's fair. Dewey, Gail asks Dewey if Sydney knows about her mom's pictures found at the scenes before she ends up being removed from the set because she's a reporter, and reporters can't be on live film sets. And, she was literally filming it on her little secret camera purse that Dewey bought her, so, she got removed. Also, according to that scene, Dewey says that Sydney doesn't know yet, and she doesn't need to know, which is fair. Why bring Sydney? Well, I mean, honestly, maybe we do bring Sydney in. The second her mom's picture there, it kind of does mean that she is definitely going to be linked to this one. Maybe let her know, little warning. But who wants to warn her? But yeah. Outside, Gail runs into a tour group with Jay and Silent Bob. Woo!
Yeah,
Jay and Silent Bob cameo. Yeah, it's a cameo.
Is there a reason this happened?
Because Bob Weinstein wanted it to.
Oh.
There was I heard this really cool story that it was because of they showed a Clerks poster in the first one and they decided to do it, but then I looked up and that according to Kevin Smith, Bob Weinstein just wanted them to make a cameo and then they paid him a lot of money, so they were definitely down. So, all right. But yeah,
I was I did see them and go, Jay and Silent Bob are here.
If you don't know who Jay and Silent Bob are, that's characters played by Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith in a lot of Kevin Smith's movies. Kevin Smith is a director that has made movies like Clerks, Clerks 2, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and a lot of other movies. But yeah,
Tusk.
I don't think Jay and Silent Bob aren't in Tusk. They're not part of the View Askew universe. Dogma is. It's okay. I like Dogma. I like what Dogma's going for.
I like Dogma.
I like Dogma more than some other. There's definitely some View Askew movies. Not that this is a View Askew podcast, which I definitely would be willing to do. I do think that Dogma holds up more than others. I think Chasing Amy is really slow and boring, and also really problematic. But that's not a discussion for today. But yeah, in this little quick cameo. Jay does think that Gale Weathers is Connie Chung. So, that's cool. We then head to Sydney's house, where her dad encourages her to come home with him and not stay there, and not to be alone. But, you know, she says she wants to stay hidden. Basically, is the gist of that scene. Later in the night, Sydney has a dream. Sorry, I guess we're not supposed to know it's a dream at first, but spoiler, it's a dream, and it's really kind of an out-of-place nightmare scene in this movie, where she has this dream of her ghost mom, who's real mean to her before she falls out of this frame of the, like, window she's looking at, and then, oh, Ghostface pops through the window, but it's all a nightmare, so it was literally, I mean, I don't know, there's never been, like, nightmare scenes in the Scream franchise before. I just felt like it felt out of place.
Yeah.
Especially, like, the second Ghost Mom shows up, and you're not... Then they reveal, yes, okay, it's a dream, so it makes it okay, but it's just like, do we need Ghost Mom? But I guess we do, because it does kind of come into play later in the plot, but...
Yeah, this weird, like, semi-supernatural, like, factor that has never been a thing in any of the other Scream movies.
And it's also really still not in this movie. Like, thankfully, like, they do explain it away as not, but, like, we wanted to go there, I guess. But, yes, we got Ghost Mom. She shows up. Not to be confused with Ghost Dad, who's been canceled because, you know, he was played by, Bill Cosby, and he sucks. For similar reasons to someone else we're going to bring up later in this podcast. Stay tuned. Can you not remember, like, there's a bit... well, it'll be news to you when we get to it. But there's definitely a reason why someone similar to Bill Cosby will come up. But yeah,
Harvey Weinstein?
Yeah, it's Harvey. I have to talk about Harvey Weinstein later, because there's a scene where I have to bring it up. We'll bring that up later, though. We're not there yet. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Then we head to... the Stab 3 production office, where Sarah who is, if you don't remember, because she's only been in one other scene, that's Jesse McCarthy's character, or not Jesse McCartney's character, you know, the son of Paul McCartney. He's in this movie now. Jenny McCarthy. She's at the production office because she's looking for Roman, who had called her, and wants to have a meeting with her. Before, she's scared by Tyson, who's in some makeup. And he leaves, and she waits for Roman, who calls her, and she has a little funny meta joke about not being happy about dying in her second scene, which I thought was funny, because I was like, oh, she's about to die then, because this is her second scene.
Yeah.
Like, spoiler, she's about to die. But yeah, I thought it was really funny. And then he wants to run lines with her, and they're running lines before Roman changes them at the end by saying her name in it. What? Then it's revealed it's Ghostface on the line. Oh, wow. Then Sarah runs away and hides in a costume room full of Ghostface costumes, which I really think is a really cool, like, little set piece for this. I really thought that was cool, because, you know, then we got the big, like, the Ghostface popping out from in the costumes, and she doesn't think to be scared of the costumes at first. Like, I liked that. I thought that was really fun.
I like that scene.
Yeah. And he reveals himself, and then he pushes her into the prop room where she tries to arm herself with a rubber knife. He then punches her through a window and stabs her in the back. And then I initially wanted to make some sort of joke about her dying because, you know, she was anti-vaxxer, but I couldn't come up with a good one. So we'll move on. We head to a restaurant.
In the back. I said she was jabbed in the back.
But then she did die from it.
Much
so that's
to
not
her
good.
own
We don't want
dismay.
that. No, we take it back. Oh no, we're giving her material. We head to a restaurant where we find out Gail and Dewey tried to make it work, but Gail couldn't turn down being on 60 Minutes too. So she left for Hollywood. Dewey tells her he took the job to be the what's it called? Technical advisor.
because he has a reason to believe that someone from Stab 3 wants to get to Sydney, because there was like a whole thing about how like they called to get her file for research and he, you know, said no, and then they like broke in, but he'd already took the file so they couldn't get to it. But yeah, so he has reason to believe someone on Stab 3 wants to get to Sydney. Oh. But then he has to leave. She follows him as they both head to a call he got from Jennifer, who had, and then this is where we first officially see her security, Steve Stone, who, yes, once again, played by Patrick Warburton. They find out about Sarah's murder, and Dewey puts together that the killer is killing in the order of the Stab 3 script. And that puts Jennifer / maybe Gale in danger, because the next to die is Gale. Ooh. Yeah. And once again, this is one of the scenes I really felt like Patrick Posey did such a great job as Jennifer. Like, there's like, it ends with her like jumping in the arms of Patrick Warburton as he like just like holds her. It's great. She is my star of this movie. I really liked Jennifer. And then after we have a funny scene. Wait, what? After outside, we have this little funny scene between Dewey and Stone, which is like Dewey basically like trying to tell him like, hey, you help, you know, you do that, you know, you protect her, and he's like, I'm the professional security person, you're not. And I think it's the first time we hear him call him Dewdrop, which will be the name he calls Dewey for the rest of the movie. But yeah, so it was a fun little scene. Nothing like crazy, nothing that important to the plot, but it was fun. So I'll give fun credit where it deserves it. We then head to Kincaid and Wallace at the scene, finding another picture of Maureen. Then Gale and Dewey show up, and we find Jennifer might not be next, because there are 3 different versions of the script to prevent leaks, which, you know, is kind of a reference to the last movie, and I believe also this movie, I think they also were working with 3 scripts. At least that's what I heard somewhere. But then also hearing how they didn't have a script, it felt like, for like half of the time they were filming this movie. I don't know if I believe they actually had 3 scripts for this movie. I think it might have just been a reference to the last movie leaking. But
it might also just be a reference to this movie not really having a script. I mean, and they're kind of just running with it.
That's true. I definitely think there was a line earlier from Sarah when she was talking to Roman that felt very much like that, about how, like, well, I guess it was Ghostface. We find, like, she says, like, oh, has there been another, you know, rewrite? And, like, apparently, you know, there was constant rewrites that the cast had to actually deal with, because, you know, because, you know, Aaron had to write the movie in 6 weeks, and then had to, you know, wasn't the guy who initially had the voice, so Wes would come in and be like, hey, maybe we changed it. Like, once again, it makes sense that there were rewrites constantly, because I don't know anyone who could do a great job in 6 weeks just perfectly the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Jennifer might not be in danger because of the multiple scripts. Also, in each version, specifically, like, a different character dies next. So, could be Jennifer, but it could also be one of 2 other characters that we never officially find out. So, I guess, cool. But yeah, back at set, Roman is talking to Dewey and Jennifer about how unfair it is that they're stopping his movie before Kincaid and Wallace show up and take him in, because Sarah and her roommate both said he had called her before she was killed. Roman denies it. So, you know, Roman, he's saying he's not a bad guy. Kincaid asks to borrow Dewey's phone to call in what happened there. Ooh, could this be important information? Kind of. I mean, maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah.
There's a chance.
Yeah, and then the scene ends with a great line from Jennifer telling, I guess it was Dewey or Stone, I don't know who it was, but, you know, remind me to never play harmonica with him again. Which I love when, you know, it reminds me of a line from Hatchet where the dumb girl and that's like, oh, I can't believe I fell for this a 3rd time. This is like, I don't want to sleep with him again. I liked it. I thought it was fun. But yeah. I lost my place again. We then head to Sydney. No wonder I lost my place, because now we're going to that subplot. You know, the main character in that little subplot that's not part of the plot. Let's head over to that real quick.
We head over to Sydney, who gets a call from, I guess this is the point where she's actually coming into the actual plot, because she gets a call from a woman in distress telling her she killed someone. But Sydney realizes the call is to her home line and not her work line. And also, she recognizes the voice as her mother's. Her mother tells her to watch the news. She does. And finds out about the second murder before Ghostface reveals his Ghostface voice. And, tells... Yeah, that's it. She then just hangs up, pretty much. Like, he reveals that he's Ghostface, and then she hangs up. Because, she doesn't want to talk to Ghostface. Guy's kind of mean to her.
Yeah.
We then head to Jennifer's house, where Dewey, Jennifer, Angelina, and Tom... who is fake Dewey, if you don't remember, because he hasn't been in the movie since his one scene earlier. Tom is drunk, and he's tearing up the script because the movie's over, and, 2 cast members die, it's over, can't make a movie no more. And this upsets Angelina, who goes outside. And then, right after she goes outside, Dewey and Jennifer both also leave the room to go to Jennifer's bedroom. Then Gail shows up, and she hears them talking about her outside the window before Stone grabs her. This is a long scene that just really didn't go anywhere. Like, that was like 3 scenes that I said in like 2 sentences, because that's all that happens in them. Yeah. Like, there's a couple times, like, honestly, like, I really thought like the Jennifer Dewey dialogue was kind of interesting while like Gail was watching, but like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. When it comes to at least reviewing it.
Right.
But yeah, so Stone grabs her, takes her inside. Then Gail and Dewey go off, talk about how Gail realized how there's no info about where Maureen was available, like, during like these 2 years of her life, like from 19 to 20. Like, she just like went off the face of the earth. It's like, oh, what could have happened? Well, Dewey kind of puts it together, because when he sees one of the pictures, he realizes that one of the pictures of Maureen was taken at the same backlot studio that one of Jennifer's headshots was taken at, or press shots. I don't think it was a headshot, but
yeah, it's a press shot.
Yeah, sorry, I said the wrong type of shot for the photo that was taken, and then immediately corrected myself. I'm sorry. I will fire myself. I lost my book. Okay, then we cut to Stone outside as he's searching Dewey's trailer when he gets a call from Dewey that turns out to actually be Ghostface, who jumps out and stabs Stone in the back and bashes him in the head repeatedly with a frying pan. Back inside, Dewey and Gail are scared by the lack of people, and the wind also opens the front door. Then the others come inside before they all witness Stone die in front of them. Then the power goes out. What you saying, sir?
I said, yeah.
This next scene is really rough. Like, especially like discussing it, because they go back and forth for literally no reason for the most part. But yeah, so the lights go out. We get back to that spot, and then so the lights go out. They all run outside before going back immediately inside because they got a script page faxed to Jennifer's fax machine. It says to not go outside, and the killers will grant mercy to one of them. Dewey and Gail get everyone outside because they think staying inside is a trap. But Tom, he's like, no, I have to know what the next page was. So he, for some reason, goes back inside. And he reads the next line of the script, but he can't fully he can read like the first line, but then somehow now after that first line, it's too dark to read more. So he goes and he grabs a lighter, and he lights his lighter to read the next line, and he reads it, and it says, like, whoever smells the gas is the one who's safe, and then he explodes.
Good explosion.
It's a really cool explosion, but
I like that.
My God, is it the most convoluted way to get to an explosion I've ever heard? Like, this is, like, so Ghostface's big plan was like, so the lights will go out, and then Tom Only Tom will go back in, but he won't have a flashlight like Jennifer had, so he'll have to pull out, that's right, his lighter and explode the whole building. Also, there was that much gas in the whole building,
and nobody smelled it.
And no one smelled it.
Yeah.
This is like, you think
but it's such a cool explosion, I'm willing to overlook it.
I'm not. This is the thing I'm going to harp on the most. This is the worst thing in the movie. Like, magic voice box, subpar script, I'll look past either of those. This is the stupidest scene in the movie. Like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
I think the explosion is cool enough that I'm willing to overlook it, because it is a good explosion.
It is a great explosion. It's a good enough explosion, I'm willing to move on in the discussion.
Yeah, it's definitely that good of an explosion for me, too.
I have to remember where I was, because there was so much convoluted garbage to get through.
There was an explosion, they rolled down a hill.
Yeah, cool, yet stupidly written stunt. There was my notes. They rolled down a hill, away from each other. Yeah, they're all going different directions. Make sure you remember that, though. Remember that they all went in different directions. Because there's a line later that implies that they didn't. And they all go in, like, different directions. They're all, like, 10 yards, 20 yards, whatever, away from each other. They're all away from each other.
How'd you get all the way up?
We're not there yet, Chris. We're not there yet. But yeah, they roll down, and Dewey hears calls from both Gale and Jennifer's voice, but he goes to find Gale. Aww. Aww. Gooey. And he finds her, and when he finds her, she's somehow further down the hill, because I don't know how this hill worked. I don't care. I really don't. But she's like way further down than he is already somehow. And he sees Ghostface is about to get her, so he shoots at Ghostface, and then tumbles down the rest of the hill, like right next to her. But that gave Ghostface a chance to escape. Then Jennifer shows up from the other direction of them, not near them, by the way. She's also not coming near them. No reaction to her coming from far away. Jennifer shows up just as Gooey were about to kiss, and she punches Dewey, and Gale punches her, which, fun fact, I guess not really, but a fact, Courtney Cox, our cat, accidentally really punched Parker Posey in the scene. Oh. So, like, she didn't have to do a lot of acting in the scene, because she actually got punched. And she also, once again, I'll keep praising her because she's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Jennifer's character has such a great, the great line, like, my lawyers liked that when she punched her. Like, I was like, all right. Like, that's what she cares about here. Is like, I can sue you now. But yeah. Then Angelina shows up from further away, kind of, casting Dewey's suspicion. Ooh.
How'd you get all the way over there?
I'll bring it up later. There might be a reason why this happened that doesn't justify it, but explains it. So we'll get to that when it makes sense for me to be able to divulge that information. Dewey finds another picture of Maureen, this time with "I killed her" on the back. Oh my gosh! Is Stu in this movie?
But Stu and Billy are dead.
I know. What could this mean?
At this point, I was really hoping that they were bringing Stu back. Like, oh my gosh, what if they did it?
That's fair. Here's hoping for Scream 6.
Yeah.
At the police station, Kincaid insists he needs Dewey to put him in contact with Sydney because she might be able to help. Which, honestly, like, in this scene, it's played as him being, like, a creep trying, like Dewey seems to be like, oh, I don't know if I can trust you, cop. But, like, I feel like this is completely fair at this point. Like, Sydney's obviously connected. There have been 3 pictures of her mother showing up. Like, she's involved. Like, but, you know, it does get to Dewey. Dewey does go to call Sydney, but she doesn't answer because she walks in the doors. Because she just was like, oh, yeah, I figured I probably should come after I got a call from Ghostface.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's here now. Sydney's in the movie. So if you're a big Sydney fan, hey, she's here now. Ain't that cool? Sydney tells Gale, Dewey, and Kincaid about her call from Ghostface. And then that's about all for that scene, I guess, because... Oh, no, sorry. And then one of the questions, like, was asked, like, how did Ghostface got her phone number? And Dewey says that 2 people who used his phone, Jennifer and Kincaid. So one of them must have... No, spoiler, neither of them. But yeah. Honestly, it's never explained, actually, now that I think about it. It is never explained how Ghostface gets her number. We'll get to... Yeah, I'll move on, but I'm realizing, like, how big of a plot hole it is. Because, at this point, I mean, I guess spoiler, sorry. You still might think one of them could be the killer, and...
I wonder if maybe the implication is that the phone call didn't actually happen. Like, it was, like...
In her head.
Like,
you think it was...
Sydney maybe imagined it?
Maybe. That's terrible, but I wouldn't... They already did the weird other dream sequence, so maybe.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's the only justification
I'm going to say
no,
though. I'm going to say no, because if I remember the call right, there was a lot of talk about, like, once... Like, I skipped over it because I didn't care. But there was a lot of, like... There was, like, at least 1 or 2 lines from Ghostface specifically, like, about her mother, which has to do with Ghostface MO, like, motive, which she wouldn't have known. So...
True.
No, I think it's just a plot hole.
I don't know how he got the number.
It's just a plot hole.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I lost my place. She walks in the door, their involvement.
Oh, it might be he saw it in her file. Like, maybe there's, like, something in her file that... Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Sydney is taken aback about her mother's involvement, because this is when she realizes, because once again, Dewey did a terrible job as her friend to not, like, warn her about this, like, at all when it started. So she, like, sees her pictures of her mom and is like, oh, what? And yeah, that's basically that scene. At the studio, they run into Randy's sister, Martha. You remember Randy's sister, Martha? She's been always been played by...
She's never been in the movies before?
She's always been there. And she's always been played by Heather Matarazzo. Always. This is definitely not the first time you're ever seeing Randy's sister. She's been there since day 1. And she has a tape from Randy. What?
Whoa.
Yeah. On the tape, Randy reveals the rules for if they're now in a conclusion of a trilogy, because... If, how you would know you're in a conclusion of a trilogy, not just a sequel, is if there's unexpected backstory and I can't remember how this word was pronounced, preponderance of exposition, which, like, is accurate to how this movie's been so far, but also, like, it's a little too meta to call out how, like, bad your movie's been just throwing backstory in. But alright, movie. And also that a true trilogy are all about going back to the beginning and discovering something that wasn't true from the get-go. Like, all those of your favorite trilogies where, like, I guess you could say, like, the third Star Wars, you find out they're siblings. Sure, I guess that was crazy and broke everything. I mean, it did make that kiss a little awkward, but that's about it. Whatever. That's all trilogies have that, even if they definitely don't. But yeah, so the rules. Rule number 1: the killer will be superhuman. No stabbing or shooting will be enough. Rule 2: anyone, including the main characters, can die. They could. Rule 3: the past will come back to bite you in the butt. Alright, that's the rules. Which, here's the thing. I'm glad they... Like, I honestly, like, I'm happy they found some weird, kind of convoluted way to get Jamie Kennedy a paycheck and in this movie for one scene, because he's a great character. Not my favorite. I don't understand the people who thought he was a favorite character, but I do like the character of Randy. So I'm glad he's back, and it kind of makes sense for Randy's character to be like, I'm going to record a thing in case I die, in case there's a trilogy. Like, it fits Randy's character. It's just cool if, like, I don't know, it was like just shipped to them by his parents instead of, like, we meet the sister. I don't know. The sister was weird. The sister felt really weird and pointless.
The sister that dropped out of nowhere, like, out of a trailer?
Yeah, well, she was waiting for them.
Hello, here I am.
I'm Maureen.
Wait, no, I'm not. What's my name? Heather. No, that's her actress name. Martha. But yeah, so he gives them the rules. Will those come into play? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Gail goes off on her own to go to the archives and is joined reluctantly by Gail specifically by Jennifer, who doesn't want to die. That was basically her reason, is like, if I'm alone, they'll kill me. If I'm with you, they might kill you instead of me, because I think they actually want you dead. Which I thought was, once again, great Jennifer line. But yeah, so they head downstairs to this basement, which, first time we find out, Jennifer doesn't like basements. Could that be important later? I mean, I guess kind of, but not really.
Yeah.
Downstairs, they meet Bianca, who is played by Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher.
Yeah. Woo! And also her character looks like Carrie Fisher in story.
She's not Carrie Fisher.
She's not Carrie Fisher. She was up for the role of,
Princess
Leia, but she did not play harmonica with George Lucas. According, like, that's her line. I'm not actually saying that she had... I'm not trying to disparage the name of George Lucas. I'm just not. That's not the goal here. But that's the line in the movie. Don't...
I will. George Lucas, come on the podcast and defend yourself, you weenie.
Oh, gosh. No.
Those are fighting words. He called
I'm
you a
scared. But yeah, so she's here. But she has no desire to help them find info on Maureen, even for the $50 Gail tries to give her. But she will help for Jennifer's $2,000 ring she drops to try to get information. And then they find out that Maureen used a stage name, Rena Reynolds, and was in 3 horror movies back in her day, all made by John Milton.
Pum pum pum.
Then we head to Sydney, who is hearing someone in one of the stalls, and it's Angelina, who was, does have all this, like, ghost face stuff, but it was okay, because she was actually just stealing props from the movie, because, this was her big break, and now it's not happening, and, Sydney, honestly, maybe a little too quickly just believes her. She's like, oh, okay, I guess that's fair. But at the same point, though, I guess, like, the last movie, when she didn't believe someone who was innocent, her boyfriend died because of it. So I guess it's fair. But yeah. So then she heads out into the set because she goes onto the set because that's where Angelina had went, and she was trying to return Angelina's hairbrush that she had dropped. But then once she's out there, she just gets freaked out by how, like, realistic the Woodsboro set is. She then heads to her room and has some weird voice flashbacks. She's, like, remembering Billy Loomis's lines and her lines back to him and repeating her line. It gets a weird scene, honestly.
I liked it.
I don't have a problem with it. It's just more like, why? It's when she also said the line where I was like, okay, so she's not just remembering. She's like remembering it to the point of being like, and this is exactly when I said this line, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, it's not like I didn't have a huge problem with it. I just thought it was a little weird.
I liked it. I liked that this movie kind of plays on the trauma of
that's fair.
Of the first 2 movies. I kind of wish they did a little more with it.
Yeah,
because it feels like they like invoke it without actually doing anything with that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Neve Campbell was only there for 20 days, so they couldn't do more with her character.
Yeah,
you're lucky you got this much. After she hears the voices, she hears a noise, and she heads to her. She goes over the door, and she. She hears her door close, and then she goes over and she uses the closet trick from the first movie, but ends up being attacked from the window by Ghostface. And then she's pulled out of the window, and they fall to the ground. But she's able to get away. Excuse me. And she runs and hides in her house set, not her actual house, but yeah, the set of her house. Before Ghostface pops out of the closet and chases her upstairs,
a la the first movie as well. She almost falls through a faux door. It's like this, like on the top of the set, there's like a fake door that leads to nothing, because I believe that's where her room set is, but they have that on the ground floors because you wouldn't build a set up like that. There's no reason.
Yeah, that kind of bothered me a little bit. It worked for the scene, but there's no way they would actually build a set like that.
Well, I mean, if they needed that set, like, they would do that, because I don't know. I mean, I feel like if they needed that hallway, they probably just do it all. And I don't know. You're right. 'Cause the reason why it definitely doesn't work is because there's another set also on that top level, which makes no sense. But not her room. Her room set is not on that level.
Right.
But yeah, the set's weird. So she then goes over into the faux section and tricks Ghostface into running and falling off onto a bed. But then Ghostface just gets up and runs away. She then follows her mother's voice to a set that's of her mother's death. Before the body bag almost gets her, and she falls out the window to the ground. Just as Dewey, Wallace, and some random cops show up. Then, suspiciously, after that first group, Kincaid, Tyson, and Angelina show up. Ooh. Yeah. The detectives, though, at the time, don't want to believe Sydney. They're like, yeah, there's no one up there. She's obviously just crazy. Then Kincaid and Sydney drive to the station. Gail and Jennifer reunite with Dewey and update him on the Rena Reynolds drama. All right, deep breath. That was a lot. A lot of contrived weirdness. And now we'll move on. Oh, great. Yeah, now we get to move on to my favorite scene, the one I was looking forward to. Definitely wanted to have to talk about. All right. We head to Gail, Dewey, and Jennifer interrupting Roman and John Milton having a conversation. Roman leaves to go get ready for his party, and after some very slight hesitation from John Milton, he divulges that, I know who Maureen Prescott was. She worked here, and, she came to one of my parties that I had back in the 70s in Hollywood, where, if you make the right impressions, if you get what I mean, you could get important roles. Which... Yeah. But then her specifically, she, he admits she might have had more happen to her than she wanted, but also... yeah, she knew what she was getting by showing up, is basically the gist of the scene. Which, now I have to address the elephant in the room. This movie was produced by Harvey Weinstein, who in 2018 was accused and found guilty of doing exactly this.
Yeah.
And it's like the situation where... I'm kind of glad that it's in this movie because, like, they're kind of calling it out. Like, and can you imagine the platform of, like, calling out this person in their movie? And, hey, maybe they specifically didn't know he was one of the people. And, like, what's he supposed to do? Say, hey, don't put that in that movie. I don't like that. Because then he's, like, admitting he did it. And, he doesn't want to do that because he's a horrible person. But then there's the secondary half of it where... now, this movie that calls this out is also making money for one of the most, like, guilty people in, like, what the real world where this happened.
And it also doesn't really feel like the movie condemns that behavior at all.
Yeah.
Which I get, it's Harvey Weinstein. He's probably not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
But it still feels like... It feels... It just feels like it's like, oh, well, that's just a thing that happens, Yeah.
But then there's also the fact that, like, I hate to say it, but sadly at this point, it was. Like, these are those stories you'd heard. It's like, the writer who was a relatively new writer, if he was the one who wrote this scene, he was probably like, I heard about this. Let me see if I can put this in this movie as, like, a biting little thing of, like, meta, the real world. And it's like, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's more that could be said, but it's weird. It's weird, but I do feel like we can't just...
It's kind of dark for this movie, too. Like, I understand it's a horror movie where people die, but it's it's too real world dark. Like, ugh.
Yeah. And then it gets more real world when you go, oh yeah, and also Harvey Weinstein made money from this movie. And like, to be fair, from like all accounts, it sounds like for the most part, like Bob was the one who like was in charge of specifically Dimension Studios, which is the people who made this, but that was a subsidiary of Miramax, which is the Weinstein company. So like Bob was the one who like cared about the horror movies and was like dealing with them. Like he was the one who said, hey, put Jay and Silent Bob in the movie. Like, so like there was like a little bit of a disconnect from like Harvey being directly involved, but it's still just, it's weird that it got made. Like it's weird that someone in the process didn't go like, okay, like we've all heard the rumors, because that's one of the things, like from my understanding, like that was rumors for forever. Yeah, like it was the hush hush, don't talk about it. But like, how did, I mean, or maybe enough people are like, yeah, no, screw him. Let's talk about it in this movie and see what he's gonna do. What's he gonna do? Tell us to not do it? And so I don't know. It just, it's too, like, I'm not sure if I'm happy it's in the movie because like, hey, they called him out. But then it's also like, I don't know how to feel about this scene being in the movie. I both love it and hate it simultaneously. And
yeah, same here.
Yeah. It's there. It's dark. It's weird how maybe accidentally meta they ended up getting, because there's also the very good chance that like they just went, kind of heard rumblings of this being a thing that happened in old Hollywood. Let's write it in as this salacious part of our story. And then like, oh crap, we're also being made, if the studio happens to also be run by like where this character basically could have been based off of. It's like, was it on purpose? Maybe. Was it not? Was it a happy, weird, disgusting accident that they were able to put that in a movie made by him? I don't know. But yeah, hopefully Scream 4, I don't have to bring up horrible tragedies or horrible people. That'd be cool. Be nice. Let's move on. I lost my place. Then we head to the station where Sydney and Kincaid have a conversation where Sydney realizes Kincaid likes movies, so yeah, that makes her a little suspicious of him. And also, and he also knows that in the third part of trilogies, all bets are off. She also finds out he grew up in Hollywood and has similar experiences being haunted by what he's seen in his life. He commends her for being with people now and like, you know, getting out there. He also asks her like about like, oh, what do you know about your mother? And she's like, I don't know. I mean, she had secrets. Then I found out she had more secrets. I guess I don't know her at all. And he's like, you actually do, because you know who she was to you. And it's like, oh, all right, Kincaid. Thank you, Kincaid. And then he says he believes her, that she actually saw a killer, which is good, because, you know, hey, we can't kill a ghost, but I can kill a man. Capture or kill. He is not a horrible cop. He doesn't immediately jump to, I will kill this man.
I can shoot him dead or strangle him with my foot.
Or if I can't do those, I guess I'll arrest him.
Yeah.
As he's about to leave, though, to go investigate, she asks him what's his favorite scary movie, and he says, My Life, in the worst line in the history of the Scream franchise.
I wanted to throw up when he said that.
It's a terrible line. It is so bad. Like, my life. Oh, and then, but that's the worst part about it. Is she, after he walks away, she's like, yeah, mine too.
Like the, what's your, oh, you're funny, tell me a joke, and then they go, ah, my life, what's that?
Yeah?
Just so little effort in this specific line.
Yeah. In the car, Gail, Dewey, and Jennifer discuss what they should do next before Dewey gets a call from Sydney saying her and Kincaid are going to Milton's house because he gave her a call. So they go to Milton's house now.
They gotta show up.
Yeah, they're like, oh, well, that's where Sydney's at. There's no way it could not be Sydney. Which I guess, to be fair, none of these characters have heard the voice changer yet, to be fair to them. Mm-hmm. They're not just being complete idiots. They don't know about the voice changer yet. So, fair enough. But yeah, they show up at Milton's house, but Sydney's not there.
Also, Milton's not there, but we see him later. But yeah, Roman, Angelina, Tyson, and Jennifer go looking for the secret screening room. Specifically, Roman and Jennifer go off, and Angelina and Tyson go off separately. And they leave Gooey in the living room because they're going to wait for Sydney to show up. Jennifer and Roman head to the basement. Well, Roman specifically goes down the basement. Jennifer stays up the stairs. She doesn't ever follow him on camera. This editing of this movie, someone's like, so yeah, she doesn't go down there. Well, I guess she does technically, but there's never a scene where she goes down there. She's just down there later. But yeah, okay. So also,
it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, Angelina and Tyson head upstairs. Alright, so downstairs though, Roman is looking around and stuff, and he finds this coffin and then he stops responding to Jennifer, which I guess presumably is why she goes down off screen to look for him. Back to Gooey.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Back to Gooey, who decide to call Sydney back using caller ID. They don't just just call her back. I don't know how caller ID worked on phones then, but apparently you use caller ID and hit send and it calls back to who you just called you. So that's what they did. So they did that. And they find out that the phone call is coming from inside the house. Because, yeah, they find the Ghostface costume, the phone, and the magic voice changer. And they both are like, how does he have our voice? And we all were like, thank you. How does he have your voice?
Somebody please tell us.
And then they do the stupidest thing you can do in a horror movie, and you'd think they wouldn't. They think they'd be smart enough at this point, but they're not, because they split up. Gail going to look for Roman and Jennifer, and Dewey going to look for Angelina and Tyson. Dewey finds Tyson upstairs, but no Angelina. Gail goes to the basement and finds Roman dead in a prop casket. She specifically checks his pulse, and he's dead. Remember that. He's dead.
He is dead.
He has no pulse. Dead.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why I'm bringing that up right now. Let's move on,
Yeah, he's dead. So we
definitely
should
dead.
keep moving.
But yeah, and then she also bumps into Jennifer, who's down there, and they run out and find Angelina, who will not stay with them because she did not play harmonica with Milton to get, a leading role just to die with 2-bit celebrities like them. Which I thought was a fun little... It's a fun, but also not line, because it's funny, but also then, you go, oh, but wait, no, ew, no, oh, real life, oh, no. Yeah. We just had the whole discussion about Milton kind of feels like a stand-in for something, so ew, no. So she runs off. Then Gail and Jennifer hear Dewey calling for them upstairs. Then we cut back to Angelina, who turns around a corner and gets killed by Ghostface. And this is the point where I will bring up the fact that initially, at one point, up until I don't know exactly when it happened, but you can definitely see the seeds of it throughout this movie. At one point, Angelina is supposed to be a Ghostface killer. She was initially written to be one, and there's the moment where Sydney finds her. There's the moment where later Sydney is definitely dealing with 2 Ghostface on the movie set.
Huh?
But she's not, I guess, or the other Ghostface, who I won't say who it is yet, kills her here. I don't know. It's once again, who knows? I want to say also, it's weirdly enough, I want to say, if I remember hearing right, that this was one of those things that they decided to do only one killer instead of her being one of them, because of the other tragedy that happened and the fact that there were 2 people there. I think I heard that might have been part of their justification. Still feels a little okay, but all right. But then they apparently, I guess, decided this late enough in filming, or still, new writer who was kind of thrown into this. He didn't take out some of her being a more than red herring kind of moments, because that kill, sure, maybe she could be just a red herring, but there were 2 killers. If you look at scenes, there was a moment where someone is messing with the door in front of her, and then Sydney gets grabbed from behind on the window. There are 2 killers there. There is no way for that scene to be possible without 2 killers.
I guess there could be like the wind is, or like the
I guess
the air is kind of making it go in and out, but
I guess that's
really
officially the movie's answer to that would have to be something like that. But yeah, it's.
But
right.
Also, they're in a movie studio.
Yeah, there should be like no like
yeah
whatever. It's here's the thing. Once again, understanding the production issues that this movie did face, I'm willing to look past the fact that there would have had to be 2 killers there. I just wanted to bring it up here because this is where Angelina dies, and we find out she is definitely not the killer.
Yeah,
I guess we don't because
she should be.
Yeah, she should have been. Like it definitely feels like throughout the movie she probably should have been, but she isn't. They decided not to do that. And then Gale and Jennifer reunite with Dewey, but Ghostface shows up and punches and cuts Dewey in the arm. Then Tyson tackles Ghostface and gets stabbed in the gut. Jennifer hides in the closet while Gale takes the fight to Ghostface. Tyson tries to run away, but is caught and thrown. First, he's like has the rug pulled out from under him, and he like does like a backflip onto his neck. And then he's picked up, bashed into like a cabinet, and then thrown out of a window to the ground, killing him.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ghostface killed Tyson. Then we cut back to the closet because Jennifer has accidentally been pushed into a secret passageway, and she goes through it and finds the end of the passageway. She actually runs into Ghostface. Then she retreats back to like right where the bedroom is, and she's at a 2-way mirror, and she tries to get Dewey's attention. Dewey does eventually like realize she's there, and he shoots out the mirror, but it's after Jennifer has been repeatedly stabbed, sadly killing my favorite character in the movie up to this point. And I was done. I stopped taking notes. The movie was over for me. No.
I thought the thing was that he shot her.
I thought that was the implication, but I could have misinterpreted it.
Yeah, I thought the implication was that he shot her and she fell, but I guess that doesn't really make sense because she fell forward. So
yeah. I mean, there's a chance that's what it was supposed to be. But I think because she gets stabbed once and then like stabbed again before like she falls through. It seems so, like even if he does shoot her, she was probably gonna die from the 2 stabs like to the gut, like important organs. She probably was dead anyway because she's not a main character, which means they can just die whenever they need them to.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's able to fight back. Wait, sorry, no, but she's not. Where was I? I lost my place.
Dead body falls through.
Yeah, dead body falls. I lost Dewey's attention. Mirror, barely stabbed. Okay, then for some reason, Gale and Dewey split up again to look for Tyson, and Gale gets grabbed by Ghostface almost immediately. She's able to fight back a little bit, and they fall down the basement stairs. Ghostface seems to be knocked out. Dewey finds Tyson's body, then gets a call from Gale, guiding him to the basement. For a moment, he kind of questions, like, "Whoa, what if you're just the killer again?" Which would been like a really funny, like David Arquette like line delivery, like kind of like prove it, and like she then doesn't get a chance to because she starts screaming because Ghostface gets up. It was fun. It was a fun little interaction between them. Dewey hears Gale's scream, but he can't. He goes to shoot Ghostface, but he can't because his gun is out of bullets. So he ends up actually just falling down the stairs instead. Oh no, he doesn't. Sorry.
I like that he got hit with the butt of the knife.
Right. I totally forgot
that was really funny.
You're right. Yeah, Ghostface throws the knife at him. Right between the eyes. Should have killed Dewey if he didn't throw it with the butt just happened to him butt first right in the eye. Because thankfully in this movie we don't pretend like we're gonna kill Dewey, like the last 2 movies. That was nice. I guess we kind of do. I mean, I guess you think, oh, maybe Ghostface, but you get my point. There's no like definitely murderous wound that he gets up from like in the first 2 movies.
Yeah.
Then we cut back to the station where Sydney gets a call while reading her file. Once again, I feel like this movie is trying to incriminate Kincaid here because he's got this really detailed file on her. It's like, oh, is he obsessed with her? But she gets a call from Ghostface, who at first is pretending to be her. So it's like just he's repeating the exact things she says in her voice. Lost my place, sorry. And then he does eventually reveal, though, he is Ghostface, though. And he tells her to, you know, he's got Gale and Dewey, and if she comes alone, they can live. And, you know, first she doesn't kind of believe him, but, you know, he eventually kind of plays on her heartstrings and, like, it's like, hey, you know, you want to know what happened to your mom? You better come. I'll tell you. I'll do the villain speech if you show up. You want to show up? And, you know, she decides she wants to show up. But not before, I guess, during the scene. I guess I'll let the movie, because the movie definitely kind of spoils the concept. I'll spoil the concept. She does have a weird, knowing glance at some body armor. I don't know, a bulletproof vest over there. She sees it. But then she goes and grabs a gun instead. She grabs this gun from the, you know, the Wallace's gun, and she arms herself with it. But yeah, then she shows up at Milton's, and she gets another call from Ghostface telling her to use the metal detector, which finds her hidden gun. Darn. Ghostface gets the jump on her as she tries to free Dewey, but she had 2 hidden guns, and she shoots him a bunch. Like, he's lit up with bullets. So he falls down, presumably dead. I lost my place, though. But yes, she turns around to untie Dewey, I think, again. I can't find my place. I'm trying to remember what happened, and I don't know where my place was. Aha. She goes to free Gale, actually. Sorry. But the shot at Ghostface is gone. It's almost like he's superhuman.
Yeah. Or wearing something.
What? He's superhuman. But then, around the corner, almost immediately, it's Kincaid? Well, that's a little suspicious. But, you know, he gets her to lower her gun that she was pointing at him before he gets attacked by Ghostface. And he takes a stab in the shoulder and then gets knocked out by the fireplace. Then Sydney shoots at Ghostface but misses, and it's her last shot. So she tells Ghostface to follow her. So she locks herself in an office before finding another secret passageway inside. And inside she hears her mom's voice and finds the screening room that was mentioned earlier. Remember that? Remember the screening room? It's here. Oh, and then also Ghostface is under the body bag. So he got the body bag in. Oh, remember the body bag? Remember that really weird scene that you're like, is this a dream or not? It was real, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Because, yeah, and he takes off the body bag, revealing, I'm Ghostface. Also reveals that, you know, he's got a bulletproof vest on. And then also reveals that 4 years ago, he reached out to their shared mother and was rejected. Then reveals he's Roman. Yay.
Roman.
Who is definitely not dead early.
Yeah, he definitely was just, you know how you can sometimes learn to, like, slow down your, you know, heart rate?
He slowed it down all the way.
He slowed it down all the way. As you can do.
Also, he definitely had a knife in his chest, right?
It was a fake knife, fake blood, scene? Maybe. I mean,
yeah, no, but that takes so much time to set up.
Oh yeah,
but
Jennifer's really scared of basements.
Who can, like, yeah, it.
Oh, you think maybe like that would have been easier if he had a second killer, but there isn't one?
What are you talking about?
Huh. Weird.
I also don't see the point of, like, honestly, you can just cut that part where you show him dead in the coffin. You can just cut that entirely, and it's still, like, everything still makes sense.
Well, there's, like, one line later where Gale goes,
Roman?
Because she's the only one who saw him dead, and it's, you know, yeah, you're right. It totally just cut it out. It's stupid.
But for dramatic irony, we have to know that it
also,
should be
just because I want to
Roman.
bring it up, other reason why Angelina definitely should have been the killer We saw her come out of a secret passageway also earlier when like she reunites.
Oh,
with...
look, guys! I found a secret passageway.
Like maybe she was in there and she helped put the blood, but no, none of them. It didn't happen. She didn't help set up this because she's not the killer, or if she is, he turned on her and we never know she's the killer. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess if you really want to like play complete devil's advocate, you go, oh well, no, she was actually a killer, but he turned on her because she was his fall guy. Maybe if you want to justify the flaw in the movie, you can do it that way if you want. Roman, but yeah, then he also, during this, he reveals that he showed Billy about his father's affair because Roman's a director. Yeah.
And he directs.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because that's what directors do. But they made Sydney the star, and that makes him angry. So then we cut to Dewey getting out of his, ropes, and he also frees Gale. And then Kincaid gives him his gun, being like, hey, you go kill him. It's revealing that Kincaid's not evil, guys. He was just a really, really red herring. Not quite on Cotton Weary from the last movie levels, but he was up there.
He was. He truly was.
But yeah. So yeah, he gives him the gun. Then we cut back down to the screening room where Roman brings out Milton and says he's going to blame her for what her mother did because he plays a tape of her admitting to like being so mad at Milton that she killed him because he used the voice changer. And then he just slits Milton's throat and throws him down to the ground. Milton's dead, which all right.
I'm okay with that one.
I won't lose sleep over that death. That's no Jennifer. But yeah. Throws Milton down. I lost my place. I keep doing this. I'm sorry, guys. Roman explains how he'll be the sole survivor hero because she got everything that should have been his. Then she calls him out, being like, no, you're wrong. You're to blame. Don't try to blame other things. And that makes him more mad. How dare you say that I'm putting the blame on you?
And then they go, F you, yeah. No F you.
Yeah, probably.
And then they attack each other.
Yeah. Then they get in a back and forth fight. And Roman gets the upper hand and is like, I believe, choking her. As Gale and Dewey... Oh, no. He gets the upper hand for a little while, and Gale and Dewey hear the fight from the other side of the wall. Then Dewey cuts the power with some tweezers, which I guess that could be your fake-out Dewey death. He should have probably been electrocuted, actually.
Yeah.
But they don't even play it as a fake-out death, so it's not. There's like a spark on his hand, and like, yeah, he's fine, I guess. We never show him again, so... But yeah, that cuts the power out, which, Roman's like choking her at this point. He could have just killed her probably in this moment, but the power going out confuses him enough that he like turns around right as Kincaid runs through the door. Woo! Oh no, he unlocks it, sorry. He unlocks the door, comes in, but then immediately gets knocked out by Roman because he's kind of pointless in this movie, Kincaid is. And then Sydney's about to stab Roman when he shoots her twice with Kincaid's gun. Roman turns around to close the door, and when he turns back, Sydney's gone.
Oh, she pulled the ghost face.
Yeah. We don't know that yet. Yeah, I guess we we don't know how she did it yet, guys. They only directly told us how she did it, but we don't know it yet. He freaks out looking for her before she's able to stab him twice in the back. Not really a fun fact, but a fun fact for me to tell you, but not for him. They had a retracting like little ice pick she stabs him with, but she missed the like little pad that was on his back. Like, because you're supposed to like stab it in the pad, so she just like stabbed him like in the actual back with like a retracting thing. So like he didn't like severely hurt him, but like his reaction is legitimate, and it actually did break skin going through part of his back because it went wrong. She missed her spot. But he seemed in good spirits about it.
I like that they brought the ice pick back from the first movie.
Yes, Basic Instinct.
Because they mentioned the ice pick in the first one.
Yes.
True.
Because women can only kill people with ice picks.
Yeah. She reveals to him she was wearing a bulletproof vest as well. They think alike. That's basically an actual line. I wish it wasn't, but it was. He says, I still got to make my movie, Mom's dead. And she says, stab 3, right? And stabs him for a 3rd time.
Yeah.
I actually didn't mind that line. I like that line. I'm overplaying it, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It was a stupid, cheesy little, it's equivalent to the not in my movie from the first one and stuff. It's the same kind of all right, settle down. She then holds his hand while he dies. While he dies, in quotes. As Gale and Dewey come in, and they also find her and Kincaid, who's alive, just incompetent at helping in any situation here. Dewey reminds Sydney about the superhuman part, and Roman pops up, and after a bunch of shots, Dewey finally shoots him in the head.
Yeah. There was a lot of shots.
Yeah, you would think that someone pointed out, I don't remember which one of the people I watched videos on pointed out, you would think the cop in the group would think, he's not, these shots to the chest are doing nothing. But he didn't. But yeah, so then we flash forward a little bit to Dewey asking Gale to sign his book. But it's actually his proposal! Yeah.
Oh my god.
She says yes with a kiss. Aww. After some really overt symbolism of Sydney deciding to leave her door open. I get it, they're trying to say oh, she doesn't care. I'm fine with her not setting the alarm. That's their way of, but then the door gets blown open by the wind and she's like, I'm okay with this. It's no, you're letting out you're letting out your air conditioning or your heat, whichever you have on right now. Close that door. Or
you're letting bugs in.
That
exactly.
Too. Yeah, what are you doing?
Close that door. Live in Texas.
Apparently, I've actually heard. I remember it was a joke on the Dead Meat video that apparently there aren't really that many mosquitoes in California, so maybe this actually isn't that bad of a thing for her. So
it's all the smoke in the air from the wildfires.
After symbolism, we find out that Kincaid's here too, and Kincaid and Gooey are gonna watch a movie together in the really cool closure to if this was a trilogy of. The franchise opens with popcorn in a movie, and it ends with popcorn in a movie, because Kincaid has a bowl of popcorn.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. So my thoughts are gonna be maybe surprising. I just kind of like the movie. It's not good. It's got flaws. I'm not even gonna go that far. I think it is a good movie. It's got a lot of flaws, and if you compare it to those first two, yeah, it's not good. But if you compare it to most movies, it's a completely passable, fun movie with some flaws, sure. And, I'm going to quote one of my favorite horror creators, not directly, but his sentiment of Dan Drambles, says that, if Scream 3 is the worst movie, Scream is the best franchise ever. And, he's kind of got a point. Yeah, Scream 3 is the worst Scream movie, but if you compare this to the worst of any other franchise, oh boy, is Scream 3 art. Yeah, I've listed off all the flaws. I've also listed off the main things I really liked. It's mostly Jennifer. I thought Parker Posey's line delivery was great. I thought she also got some of the best lines from, our new writer, Aaron, who's also only the writer for this one. But yeah, and also knowing the backstory, a lot of the other flaws I'm willing to kind of overlook. And, sure, maybe that's not objective and, the movie can still be bad, even if there's reasons. But yeah, I think those reasons justify it enough that I still, enjoyed it. That's my thoughts.
I guess I'll give my thoughts now.
Well, that's the order we always do it in, so yeah.
Typically, I guess I'll go. We'll just skip over me.
No, we don't do that typically.
No, not typically. Or ever, I don't think.
No.
Yeah, I'd say probably my least favorite part of this movie was Courtney Cox's bangs. Truthfully.
Yeah.
And I think Courtney Cox might agree with me on this. She did make like an Instagram post on like a Halloween not too long ago, where she was like, "Oh, not the bangs," in it she had like the Scream 3 bangs. That was just funny to me. But yeah, no, I mean, was the writing great? No, it definitely wasn't as good as the other two Scream movies. But it was definitely like, it was passable for sure. It didn't take me out of the movie at any point in time. Until we started going through this podcast, I was like, oh yeah, those were plot holes, huh? Yeah, it definitely felt like Angelina should have been a killer. She wasn't. Oh well. You can definitely look past that. I mean, can you look past the Ghostface being in two places at once? Probably not.
He's superhuman now.
Yeah, it is the trilogy. The conclusion to a trilogy. Sort of.
I mean, it is, but then it wasn't.
Yeah, no, it was still a really enjoyable movie to watch. I still really liked all these characters. The acting in this movie was still like really solid. Ooh, excuse me, solid, even from like the actors that I didn't really recognize. So yeah, overall, still a pretty pleasant experience. And you know, for the lowest low in the franchise, it's not that low.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a decent movie. It was a little boring for me, at least at the beginning. I felt like the first scene was good, and then it really started to lose me in the middle. It felt like the story didn't really have the same kind of propulsion that Scream 1 and Scream 2 had. But I did like there were things I liked about it. And I was back in it at the end of the movie. But overall, it's, you know, it's okay. It's overall, I think it's a fine movie. But, you know, like you said, if this is the lowest of the Scream franchise, it's a great franchise. So,
yeah,
fair. Yeah. So that was Scream 3. Next week we will watch Scream 4, which I remember kind of liking when I saw it when it came out. Haven't seen it since. Yeah, we'll be watching that next week. But if you like this podcast and you listen to it on a podcast app like Google, Apple, or Spotify, if you could, I don't know, give us a 5-star review, that'd be greatly appreciated. If you're watching it on YouTube, you could give it a like, I guess. It doesn't really actually help us, but it helps your algorithm, so you do that for you. And it'll help my heart seeing that you liked it. But yeah.
Leave comments too.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll be back next week. Also, patreon.com/horrorboys. We have a Patreon where you can typically get the podcast a couple days early if that's what you're into. That's cool. Yeah, and there's also other reward tiers that we've never done any of the stuff that we're supposed to if you do it. So, hey, give us money and we'll make that content for you. I've been Austin, and I've been joined by Chris, and we will be back next week for more Horror Boys. Bye-bye!
Bye-bye.
Bye.